Thinking about buying a franchise? Don't go it alone. Just like a buyer's agent in real estate, you deserve someone who's on your side every step of the way. That's where Todd Abraham, the franchise guy, comes in. Todd's consulting services are completely free to anyone looking to buy a franchise. He'll represent your interest, make sure all your questions are answered, and walk you through the entire buying process. With Todd in your corner, you'll have the best chance for success from your first call to the day you hold the keys to your new business. So before you buy a franchise, talk to someone who knows the industry inside and out and works for you. Call Todd Abraham, the franchise guy, today at 423-381-0925 for a free, no-pressure consultation. That's 423-381-0925. Your future in franchising starts here. Good afternoon and welcome to the Franchise Marketing Systems Client Spotlight podcast series on franchiseradio.net. My name is Todd Abraham, and today we are talking about a very unique franchise opportunity that has to do with hamburgers, which all of us Americans love for the most part. Unique concept, unique business name, and I'm going to see if I can pronounce your last name right. We have with us tonight John Mohabit. Did I say that right?
That is correct.
That
is correct, Todd.
Yeah. So John is the founder of the Burganic franchise, and this is a great story. We talked by phone about a week ago. John, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time and making this happen. I've been looking forward to it for a little over a week now.
Yes, sir. The franchise model is still the very best way, in my humble estimation, to get for a new entrepreneur to get into a new business with the cost of everything being so expensive. Even on the marketing side of things have become so expensive. So for an entrepreneur that has worked hard, saved their money, kind of prepared themselves to be able to make that investment, plug and play, and start, generating income right away is priceless, in my opinion. But tell us give us a little bit of background about yourself and the whole Burganic story.
Well, thank you very much again for having me today. A little bit of background about myself. Moved to the U.S. Back in 1985 when I was still a teenager. My father was in the NATO forces, so we traveled a lot. But once we did land in the U.S., I started very early working in the QSR space. With that being said, the first place of employment that I had, and I actually had it for a little over 10 years, was with McDonald's. At the time, McDonald's was the biggest, baddest bear in the industry. And
Yep.
I wanted to be a part of that. Fast forward 10 years, I worked my way up from a cook to a cashier to shift manager, all the way up till a store manager. That being said, during that time, I was also working on my bachelor's degree, which would help me get to the next level. When I say the next level, I really wanted to be a franchise owner at that time. I've seen too many mamas, papas stores open up. And of course, without the name recognition, without the test market, without the great reviews that the internet allows us to have nowadays, it was a 95+% failure rate. But McDonald's had a phenomenal name brand behind it. And I thought, why don't I just see if I can own my own? That being said, when I graduated from college, I was barely 21 years old, and I was ready for my own personal franchise, knowing that I had put in almost 10 years out there with them. So that they actually entertained my application, and by the time we got to our first meeting, I was sadly informed that due to my age, they could not see a large organization such as McDonald's taking a $1.5 million risk on someone that was barely 21 years old.
Yeah.
So that crushed a lot of my motivation to continue with that organization. I knew myself, I knew what I had to offer, and I thought, let's try the corporate America route first. So, with that being said, I went on to the telecom industry where I started off as a salesperson, worked my way into network design, and then network design engineer. Went into management all the way to VP of sales. But in the back of my head, there was always something missing. I love the service industry. And when I retired from the telecom industry, give or take about 10 years, I looked at all the franchises that were out there. And unfortunately, some of the franchises were out of touch with what the consumers wanted today. They wanted a clean restaurant that they could come into, have some food that was healthy, that did not either violate their religious beliefs or their health concerns or anything else for that matter. So my wife and I came together and we came up with an idea that we wanted to offer healthy burgers made freshly, nothing that is, that's been sitting on the side or microwaved after it was made. We wanted to offer a fresh take on
Well,
that industry.
if I can interject here, you mentioned the clean restaurant thing. I too worked for McDonald's for quite a number of years on and off throughout my career, and also worked as a manager in fast food for two different chains. But that was one of the things that it's very important to customers. And sadly, a lot of even the big franchises don't work hard enough at it. But I used to tell my employees, I said, look, if we can keep the lot clean, keep the lobby clean, keep the bathrooms clean. I said, by the time they get to the register, we've already beat like 80 to 90% of our competitors. I said, because people pull onto the lot, they see it clean. They come in, the first thing they see is the lobby. It's clean. They go to the bathroom. I said, over half your people most likely are going to go to the restroom before they come order. I said, that's clean. I said, man, we have really gotten a big leg up on our competition.
Absolutely. And I think that's what made McDonald's great during the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I personally feel like they've lost touch with their consumers over the past 10 to 15 years. And there's some heavy competition as well from other franchisors. But with that being said, we still thought that we could offer something very unique, something organic, something that appealed to multiple generation, whether you wanted an organic hamburger freshly made right in front of you, or perhaps a vegan burger. And so we've tapped into that market. And after doing years of research, we found a small restaurant that offered maybe, I want to say, 30% of what we were looking for. And we had an opportunity to purchase that restaurant. Now, once we purchased that restaurant, we actually decided to change the menu. We had a captive audience. We made sure that the restaurant was clean at all time. The restrooms were clean at all time. Parking lot same. And that goes back to the old days of McDonald's, right? That's how you gain your customers.
So, quick
But
question though, where's your primary location at?
my primary location is located in the city of Houston, in the Galleria area. Very heavily, in a traffic area, where a lot of friends are very close to us. So we have a phenomenal audience. And what I love the most about our restaurant is once they come and eat with us, we have obtained a customer for life. You can see it from our reviews. You can see it from the conversations we have at the restaurant. You can just see it all the way around.
And
So we were very well respected.
how many years have you guys owned that particular location?
As of August 1st, 2 years.
That's cool. That's cool. But it was there for how many years before you guys bought it?
It was there for 3 years prior to us purchasing it. And what we did was we brought in a lot of managerial experience. It was a gentleman that was trying to retire from owning a sandwich restaurant. But we were just getting started. So we made sure that since we had a captive audience already, we tested different types of products, whether it's the Impossible Burger or a, a freshly mushroom sandwich that I personally love. And we put it out there for our clients to test. For the last 2 years, we've been testing our product. And I've got to tell you, I'm very excited. I'm very excited. We have a diehard following, and it keeps me up at night. I get more and more excited each and every time I think about the possibilities in the near future.
Well, that's cool. And for those of you listening, we're talking to John Mohabit. He is the president and founder of the Burganic Burger franchise. That's the best way I can describe it. So just think of this, if you're listening, if the word burger and organic had a baby, that would be called Burganic. And so the website is burganichub.com, burganichub.com, burganichub.com. Now, it is a franchise opportunity. And the reason I tell you that too is because on their website, which is a beautiful website, by the way, yes, sir, there's a link for the franchise information on their primary website. So how many different types of burgers would you estimate that you sell?
So we have about 7 different hamburger sandwiches that are based on organic beef, and then another 6 that are vegan based.
Right. And then, but I noticed on your website there, it also says that you have salads and more, correct?
Absolutely. So we have salads, desserts, pizzas. Those are some of the things that we have experimented on and people have fallen in love with. We can even offer smoothies, any type of health product that our clientele are looking for. And I've got to tell you, I was very surprised to hear that if you know the city of Houston and you know the suburbs, nobody really lives in the city of Houston. They just come to work in the city of Houston. However, the suburbs are huge, and some of the people that we're getting, and we look at our clientele base, we look at their emails, we look at their residents, and we're getting zip codes 15, 20, 25 miles away to come look at our restaurant and try our food. And they're
That's
coming
cool.
back, so over and over again.
That's awesome. So just for those of you who are listening, if you're getting hungry like I am, look at the website here. I'm looking at this beef avocado sizzler burger, and I love avocados. So, but like you said, it's in Houston, but the actual street address is 2721 Chimney Rock Road, and that is, of course, in Houston, Texas. So I love the sign out front. I think that looks really good. How much square footage do you have in your anchor location?
So the anchor location, again, we have to go back and look at the reason why we picked that one. We picked it to make sure that we test our product and that the product was well received. So the original thought process was, is this a business that we can grow? And the answer was yes. And then it was, is this a product that people wanted? And the answer was yes. And can we franchise this? The answer was absolutely. There's a very strong demand for this. People actually coming into us and asking us for that. So with that being said, during the test period, make sure that this is the product that people wanted to consume. We went with a very small footprint of a little over 1,000 square feet. Now, a right size restaurant could easily have anywhere from 1,800 to about square feet of space. That is the ideal position to be in.
Now, you guys don't have a drive-through at your anchor location, correct?
That is correct.
Now, your franchisees, can they do a drive-through?
I would love for all of my locations to have a drive-through. Now that I know so much more about the our clientele and what they're looking for, a drive-through is a one of the most amazing thing that can happen to our business model.
Right. Well, and I mean, every fast food restaurant, just about, I mean, that's about 60% of their business seems like is through the drive-through. Although my own personal opinion, I don't think they pay enough attention to the front counter. If they did, it would take more pressure off of their drive-through and give them a better balance. But that just comes from years and years of experience working in fast food from at every level. The only thing I didn't do was own one. But so let's talk about the franchise opportunities. So give us an idea of like what is the franchise fee, the monthly royalty, what's the all-in investment? I know there's a range there because it depends on the location and how much build out is done. But just give us an idea of what the range of the all-in investment would be.
Absolutely. So we wanted to make sure that this was a franchise that most people could afford, whether you are a citizen that was born and raised here or an immigrant that came to this country and wanted to better your lifestyle. We were trying to stay away from the $100,000 to $200,000 franchise fees that I have seen out there. I wanted to make sure that this was affordable. So with respect to the franchise fees, really it's a $40,000 investment, which will include the training of your staff as well. In addition to that, there's a 4% royalty fees plus a 2% for marketing fees. Other than that, it's your franchise itself and where you're locating it. And then, of course, your FF&E cost as well as the build out. And that could range anywhere from 250,000 all the way to maybe about 450.
Right. And could be lower than 250. I guess it would just
Absolutely.
depend again on the location and the size and everything. I guess here's a good question. Is it a concept that someone could do strictly through drive-through?
It is a concept that they could do that. I think a lot of our clients would prefer to have the opportunity to sit down and enjoy a meal. But it's definitely an opportunity if you're in a very heavily trafficked area. Then yes, they could open just a drive-through. And then, of course, like you said, the cost could be lower than 250,000, especially if you have a second generation restaurant that you're opening for your first location.
Right. And so you are open to a franchisee owning more than one location?
Absolutely. We're not going to limit you with respect to how many restaurants you want. Now, we will have to assign a certain geographical area for you and make sure that one restaurant is not cannibalizing another one. And that's in the best interest of the franchisees, of course. It's not in our best interest. We want to make sure that the franchisees not only have a great opportunity with a certain mile radius around them, and they can benefit from, but I also don't want them to worry about another franchisee opening one very close to them. So, yes, they can open as many as they want, as long as they're separated from each other in a reasonable distance.
Right. All right. So, as far as competition goes, I personally have never heard. I know there are a lot of the burger joints now. They serve, alternatives to the traditional beef burger or whatever. There's not a high volume of them based on my experience. But is there any competition out there that's very similar to what you offer?
I don't think there's a competition that offers everything that we offer. There have been some that have ventured into the organic burgers. There have been some that ventured into vegan burgers, for example. None that have been able to mash both of them together, and none that have offered products like smoothies, pizzas, gyros, and many other product offerings that we have. So nothing the way we've scaled it to.
Well, I'm looking at your prices, and I got to say, there's some really good prices based on today's economy and inflation and what have you. I know one of the reasons I don't go to Five Guys Burgers and Fries because their prices are pretty exorbitant, for, you know, fast food, casual type dining. So I think that's really good. And I imagine if you're in Houston, which obviously is a big city, that your menu prices are probably going to be about the same wherever a franchisee opens, correct?
So franchisees have some flexibilities with their pricing. However, I will caution you that um, trying to be as competitive as possible, you can still make a great living. We've looked at our pricing, and we have a McDonald's very close by, a Whataburger close by. And we're actually priced lower than them and still manage to make a decent profit as well. So we're very competitive. Do we have some room to grow as far as can we raise the price a little bit and still not lose any clients? Absolutely. But when I look at the industry itself now, sometimes I'm a little bit disappointed in some of the large chains where they're offering a meal combination, which quite frankly, when I was growing up, they were less than $3 for the burger, fries, and drink. Now they're up to $15 to $20 per person. At some point, people are going to say enough is enough. Just the same way that you did with Five Guys. We walk out of Five Guys with two people, and you can easily spend $60 to $70.
Yeah.
That's a restaurant, and a dinner
Yeah.
date
If I'm going to
for
spend
most
that kind of
people.
money, I'm going to Longhorn. So I'm going to get me a steak.
That's what I was thinking also. But we're very competitive as far as pricing is concerned. Again, we're trying to do our best to make sure that our consumers don't feel the pinch, because they feel it everywhere else. And when they do come to our restaurant, they look at our menu, they look at our pricing, they look at our food presentation. They're thoroughly impressed, and because that same sandwich at any other competitor would cost $2 to $4 more.
That's awesome. Well, and not only that, but like you said, the cleanliness, the presentation. I mean, every detail matters, especially in the food sector, because a lot of times people, if they have a complaint, they won't voice it. And they just won't come back or they won't refer you or both. And so, I think attention to detail, regardless if you have a $2 burger or a $50 burger, I think it's very important, that you get every detail correct. And it sounds like you've done that. So tell us about when somebody, I guess, what is your ideal franchise owner that you guys are looking for that you'd like to bring on board?
I, Personally, I would love the same type of story that my wife and I have. A small family that want to explore franchise opportunities. And sometimes I have these dreams, right? Because my brothers, my sisters, all of us worked in the same McDonald's. I could see a family member of three to four operating one of these restaurants, that literally could bring in anywhere from 500 to $750,000 a year in total sale revenue, which is huge because normally in any franchises that you may have heard of in the past, you will need anywhere from 10 to 15 people working at those restaurants for the same type of sales revenue. We've scaled it down to where we looked at how the operations were with four people working, with three people working, with two people working, as well as with 10 people working. And so my ideal clientele would be a family that wants the American dream, which is what we came here for, and want to do better for not only for themselves but for their children and the next generation that's coming. Now, will we also have an investor that wants to purchase 20, 30 restaurants location in a different city, different state? Where I don't think we're going to turn them down.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
would love that opportunity as well.
So
But if we
your anchor location, you run with approximately four people then?
So I have run it with four. I've also run it with two. And the reason why I've run it with two is I wanted to see what was the minimum amount of people that could run this business and still run it successfully, and not lose any clientele, not lose any, the good reviews that we've been getting all along. And I've got to tell you, two people can manage it really well. Three would be fantastic.
That's awesome.
Four would be, depending on the size of the restaurant, would be great. But 3 to 4 people is ideal per shift, of course.
Right. Now, when you mention those annual numbers right there, I just want to throw out there that we're not making any promise of income
No,
here.
not at all.
But he's given factual statistics here based on his anchor location. So let's say hypothetically in that $750,000 a year, what percentage of that total gross would be net income after all expenses are paid?
Depending on how it's managed, so depending on the payroll and everything else, you could easily, on a $750,000 gross revenue, a franchisee could easily end up with $150,000 to $210,000 a year in income. Again, depending on how they manage payroll, because that is a pretty huge cost
Well,
associated with it.
yeah, and you and I both know that is the number one thing as a store manager, McDonald's and any fast food restaurant, that they just drive the general manager, from the district level on up, it's that labor. Watch that labor, and cut the
Mhm.
labor. You guys have to work harder. We've got to get rid of the hourly employees.
Correct.
That was always my experience and I can understand it is one of your most expensive aspects of your overhead for a restaurant business for sure. Well, so let's talk about how did you come to be connected with franchise marketing systems and what has been your experience with them so far?
So, when I was looking at franchises initially to purchase, I've gone to franchise expos and I've also spoken to several other franchisors in the industry. There was nothing that I really um, that piqued my interest, and so we went ahead and purchased the store, this restaurant, and built it out on our own. Now, with that being said, and I always had the idea of not only grabbing this opportunity, but also passing on this knowledge and making sure that others were successful also. And the only way to do it is to look at maybe franchising opportunities. So a little over a year ago, within a year ago, we looked at different franchise with different organization that made it possible for individual like myself to franchise their restaurants. And it wasn't before long that we got in touch with the organization that you and I were talking about. And I've got to tell you, it's a great family-run business. They came to us. They pitched their product. They pitched their service, and we fell in love with them. Everybody else that we spoke to usually wanted to have a phone call, maybe a conference call, and send us a check, and we'll see what we could do. But FMC was phenomenal. They actually came to us. They introduced themselves. We got to know them personally. They got to know us, me and my wife, personally as well, and everything just felt right. We just connected really well, and we
Was it
signed. I'm sorry.
was it I'm sorry, was it Chris Connor that you talked to first, or who was it that you?
No, Chris Connor was introduced to me by one of his sales representative that was in the field.
Right.
And Chris has just been an unbelievable person, very responsible, responsive, very knowledgeable, and he has been our go-to person for anything that we may or may not need.
Yeah,
I
he's
would
a
recommend
dynamic guy.
anybody that's starting. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, anybody that's starting a franchise, I would recommend Chris to them,
well,
100%.
on a side note, one of the things that really, you've got these new booking calendar apps out there like Calendly, which I use and Chris's uses and stuff, but nothing aggravates me more than meeting somebody for the first time and they want to tell me about their product or service and they're like, book a time with me so we can talk. And I'm like, I'm not booking a time with you for you to try to sell me something. I mean, so I love that, FMS, did that personal touch and came in person because there's still no shortcut to that, person to person interaction when it comes to doing business. And even in today's digital environment, but the last thing I've told people that too, I was like, don't send me a calendar link for me to book a call with you so you can try to sell me something. You're gonna have to have a little more effort than that, buddy.
No,
So
even our first conversation with Bernie, he was just phenomenal. He did everything right. He came to us. He phoned me a couple of times. We exchanged texts a couple of others, but he did not once mention business at all until he got to know me. And
that's cool.
that was a completely different approach than everybody else. Everybody else wanted to put the product out there. FMS just wanted to know who we were first and what our goals were. And so those are stories that appealed a lot to me and to my wife. And so when it came time to select one out of maybe 4 or 5 organizations, it was a no-brainer. We actually knew people. We shook hands. We told each other our dreams, and everybody else just write us a check, tell us what you want. Let's see what we could do. So there was a day and night difference between FMS and all the others.
Well, let me ask you this question, John, so you and I don't get in trouble in this sense. This podcast is going to be permanently playing on franchiseradio.net. What is your wife's name so we know who the boss is?
You're absolutely right, because I can't make a move without her. My beautiful wife, her name is Christina Mohabit as well.
That's cool.
She's been there. We've been married for 19 years. We have 2 beautiful kids, and they actually go on my business meetings with me. My son is 15 years old. My daughter's 17. The last thing I want to do is for them to be tossed out in the world without knowing how to either speak in a business environment or negotiate or one thing or another. They're phenomenal kids. They're sponges, and they take everything in. And that's all thanks to my wife and how she's raised them.
That's awesome. So we're talking with John Mohabit. The franchise is burganichub.com, Burganicchub. Burganichub.com. Really just an awesome business concept. If you go to their website, you click on the franchise link on the navigation menu. There's a form that you can fill out to reach out to John or his wife, Christina, for more information. So John chose Franchise Marketing Systems for the reasons that he said. Personable, in person, got to know who they were, wanted to find out, their goals and really learn the business so that, because Franchise Marketing Systems, they tailor their services to your vision. And they do so much for you. There's about 11 or 12 different things that they do for you, such as your franchise disclosure document, which is that legal document that all franchisors have to sell franchises in any of the 50 states. But they also do your business plan, your franchise information website, your operations manual, which and I'm speaking speaking from experience because I'm a franchisor myself, which to me was just absolutely phenomenal. And like John was saying, they're so responsive all the way from the president of the company, Chris Connor, to his entire team. But John, I'm sure you can testify. They're very diligent in the franchise creation process, and they are so good at communicating like every step of the way, right?
Well, I mentioned earlier that, this opportunity keeps me awake at night. Being with FMC allows me to sleep, FMS, I apologize, allows me to sleep really well at night. I have zero concerns about how they're going to create all the documents that we need to become a franchise. In fact, Chris, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, emailed us our FDD. I asked for it, and 24 hours later, I had the FDD. But I have zero doubt that we're in the right hands. The organization believes in this just as much as we do. And if you have doubts about the people that you are partnering up with to take your business to the next level, they're the wrong people. I have zero doubt with Chris and his team.
That's awesome. And if you are interested in creating a franchise out of your business, regardless of what industry it is in, you can reach out to me. Again, my name is Todd Abraham. My phone number is 423-381-0925. I'm on Eastern Standard Time. But if you have any questions, FMS, Franchise Marketing Systems, more than happy to give you a completely free consultation, no pressure whatsoever. And the other thing that's great about FMS is they will give you an honest assessment to say that, yes, you have a great business model, but you don't have enough years under your belt to warrant us to be able to go out there and to create the franchise. But the one last thing I want to say about FMS that makes them so great is that they break their fee up for the new franchisor into 6 to 8 monthly installments. And plus, once they get everything done and now you're ready to start promoting and selling your franchises, they also help you to do that. They assign you a brand ambassador and they help promote and sell your franchises. So really an awesome company to do that for you. John, if somebody is interested in buying a franchise with Burganic, do you want them to reach out to you directly? You want to put your phone number out there? You want them to use the form on the website or both? Or
Actually, both would be fantastic. You can definitely go on to burganichub.com and click on the franchising link and submit your information. We will have one of our mini agents give you a call automatically. Or you can call me directly in the city of Houston, so Central Time. My personal phone number is 832-868-0631.
Fantastic. Well, John, it's been a pleasure. Again, the website, burganichub.com. And if you're in Houston, I think you need to go try their food because the pictures look amazing. And let me tell you something, as a podcast host doing a interview with a franchisor who owns a food franchise, you never want to do that when you're hungry because it just adds to the torture, especially when you have a professional, very professional website like John and Christina have done with Burganic Hub. So any closing comments before we wrap this up, John?
No, we came up with this idea really to make sure that we can help others become just as successful as I have over the years. Nowadays, with the amount of laid off in corporate America and so much uncertainty out there, I would say the best thing that you can do, not only for yourself but your family, is to have something that you can call your own. And if a franchise sounds good to you, please give me a call. Let's talk about it. Let's see where you're at, and let's see if we can help you out. In the long run, I think owning your own business will outweigh any corporate job, and that's just my take on it. I've done the corporate thing. I've done the restaurant thing. Now I'm a franchisor. And I've got to tell you, the franchise portion of it has been the highlight of my life. And I can show you the numerous amount of awards that I've gotten being in the telecom industry. To this day, my kids are still proud of us owning a Burganic hub. So the
Awesome.
20 years I've wasted with corporate America versus the 2 years I've been with Burganic Hub, they're a lot more excited about the restaurant than they are about any hard work that Dad has done in the past for them. So I'm
That's
excited to share
awesome.
this opportunity with
But
everyone.
but a good thing though about that, John, it's not wasted because all that experience you're able to bring to bear to help, not only develop a very successful business, but also to support your franchisees when they begin to come on board. Well, we're going to
I'm so
wrap
glad you
this up.
mentioned that. I'm so glad you mentioned that. If you don't mind, 2 more seconds.
Sure. Absolutely.
With respect to the amount of experience, so I personally have 10 plus years of experience in the hotel restaurant management. But my store manager that's managing the store, which my franchisees will have an opportunity to train with, he's been doing it for 35 years.
Oh, wow.
And
Awesome.
so I army behind me that's going to be there to support you as I am myself to help you succeed in not only your financial goals, but any other goals that you may have.
Fantastic. All right. Well, folks, again, you're tuning into the Franchise Marketing Systems Client Spotlight podcast series on franchiseradio.net. My name is Todd Abraham, and we've just finished interviewing Mr. John Mohabit of BurganicHub.com. And if you are interested in buying a franchise with this company, again, you can visit their website, click on the franchise link, and fill out the form. John did give his direct phone number here, but you also can call me if you want more information. Todd Abraham, 423-381-0925. And we appreciate you tuning in to this podcast, and good night.